Hi, this is Jill from Fabric Garden, and today we're going to learn how to make the Bubbly Bag. The Bubbly Bag is a cute little gift bag that comes in 3 sizes. This is the medium bag, there is a wine-sized bag, and there is a cute small little bag. So they're all made the same way. They're all the same width. They're just either taller or shorter. So the same directions apply to all 3 sizes of the bag, except for your cutting. So before we get started here, I want to just talk a little bit quickly about making projects. Projects are usually pretty fast and pretty easy, but oftentimes as you make them, things can get askew and your project doesn't look as professional or straight as you would like. So just as with quilting, accurate cutting is important, and pinning is even more important because you get lots of layers of fabric and interfacings in projects, and things can shift around and get out of whack. So while you're working on this project, accurate cutting, use your walking foot whenever you have more than 2 layers of fabric, and be generous with your pinning or clipping with Wonder Clips. So we are going to get started. So you are going to start with the outside main focus of your bag. And this is for the medium bag, but everyone will cut for what size they would like to make. So you've got your outside cut, your lining cut. You also need to have your interfacing cut. So you are cutting 8 pieces of the Shape Flex interfacing, which is a softer interfacing that is 2.5 inches wide, and its length will depend on the size of bag you're making. And then you will cut 4 pieces of interfacing that are 4.5 inches wide by the length of your desired bag, and then you will be cutting a smaller square of interfacing, just one for the front of your bag. So the project starts out, and I'm going to adjust the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. That out of the way. You are going to, on the wrong side of your main project, you are going to take your ruler and some sort of marking. This could be a friction, a chalk marker. We're going to put it on the lining, and you are going to mark 1 inch from one end, and then you are going to mark 1 inch from the other side. Then you're going to head to your ironing board to put on your fusibles. You're going to start with your Shape Flex fusible, and you will iron. You're going to take it and you're going to line it up with the 1 inch, and it is going to be about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. You can pin this before you iron it, or if it's laying nice and flat for you, you can go ahead and just fuse that in place. So you're going to fuse that 2.5 inch strip to each side, and you're going to do the same on the other side. Then you're going to take your 4.5 inch Shape Flex pieces and center them, again, just right at this 1 inch line, center it, fuse it down, the same on the other side. And then that smaller piece you have will fuse right centered in the center. So you've got all your Shape Flex fused on. Then you're going to come back with your stiff stuff. And the stiff stuff is thicker. It will give your bag more stiffness. So this way your bag will stand up, stay standing up, no drooping of your bag. So we're going to start out with the two larger 4.5-inch pieces, and they are going to set right on over the interfacing you just did. You'll put those on, and you are going to sew all the way around it 1/8 of an inch. Now you need to take note before you start sewing that this sewing is going to show on the outside of your bag. So you'll want to choose a thread color that either blends or coordinates with your outside fabric. And you're going to want to make sure as you're stitching that you're keeping your stitching neat and tidy, and so it will look nice on the outside of the bag. I find one of the ways to keep your stitching looking nice is, instead of back stitching at the start and the stop, you start no back stitching, sew your 1/8 of an inch all the way around, and when you get back to where you started, just stitch over your previous stitching about 1/2 of an inch, and that will lock those stitches in place, but it will look much tidier than back stitching. So you will get those two pieces sewn on, and now you have two smaller little rectangles of the stiff stuff, and those go in the center. You just butt the two pieces up together, centered there. You don't stitch around each rectangle, you stitch around the entire piece. Don't worry about the middle here, just all the way around, the same way that you did on these other pieces. And we need this to be open here. This helps our bag fold and do what it needs to do. So you now have the front of your bag very quickly and easily prepared. At this point, the next step is the handles. So the pattern in this calls for you to use zippers for the handles. It's a very, very cute, it just looks really cute, these zipper handles, and it's hard to see on the camera, but the coils just really make it look cute. So you can either use one color as zipper, or it's cute to use two. And you actually will just take your zipper apart. So you will cut both ends where the metal zipper stops are. You will cut all the zipper stops off, and you will just zip the zipper pull off. And you can save that. There are other uses for your zipper pulls. So you now have your pieces, and we are going to layer them together for the handles. So you'll want the coil side up. That will be the right side of your handle. If you're using two colors, whichever color you lay on top will be your primary color. So if I wanted white to be my primary color, I would lay that on top. If I want pink, I will lay the pink on top. So that's what I'm going to do here. I like the pink with the fabric I've got selected here. And I'm going to use my zipper foot. Now, you can pin here, or I do find if you have this style zipper foot, it fits just perfectly in the channel here between the two coils. And if you could even go, if you have this style foot, if you're good at holding things in place, this foot will hold it right, and you use the width of the foot as your measurement, it'll sew beautifully. Otherwise, you could use a Wash Away Wonder Tape, and this is a double-sided sticky water-soluble product. You can stick that right on your zipper, and I've already stuck mine, so I just have to stick it back down, and you just stick it, give it a little rub, and it'll stick in place, and it will hold everything in place while you stitch. Now again, you may want to think about your thread choice here. You can stick with whatever color you've used to match your bag, or you could switch and use a color that coordinates with your zipper. So the pattern says that you can stitch just right down the center of the zipper, but I felt like that left too much of the zipper unsecured and was not as nice of a look. So I used my zipper foot and I stitched very close to the edge of the pink zipper, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, all the way down the zipper, and then I turned it over and I did the same stitching along about a 1/16 of an inch away from my white or other colored zippers. And it looks really cute. It's got 2 lines of stitching. There's no fabric flipping up, and it lays nice and flat. So I liked that 2 layers of stitching. Okay, so once you have your zippers prepared for your handles, you'll need 2 10-inch pieces for your handle, and you will want to pin to the right side of your bag. The pattern is going to have you mark 2 3/4 inch in. This is going to be how far in you're going to put your zipper, your handles, and you're going to mark 1/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch down from the top. That is going to be where you sew your handles. So you'll need to mark all 4 corners. Again, you can use chalk, you can use friction pen. This area will be sewn. You won't see it, so you're not going to have to worry about getting this out. So no worries there. So you're going to mark all 4 corners, and we're going to get the zipper on. And you're going to want to line the edge of your zipper with the edge of your fabric, right inside your marked line at 2 3/4. And you want to make sure you don't get a twist in your zipper. Bring that back up, and you're going to pin it in place, or you can use your Wonder Clips. So you're going to pin these in place. Just making sure I don't have a turn in a fold in my zipper. So you can pin or clip, and then you are going to stitch this down at that 3/4 inch point. So you're just going, and you do want a back stitch here to secure this. You could go forward and back on both sides. And you will do the same on the other side of your bag. So you will have your handles in place. So now you have the whole front of your bag is prepared at this point. So preparing the lining is very easy. It is virtually what we did with the front, with just a few little changes. You're going to, again, on both ends of the bag, you're going to mark 1 inch on both sides. Your 1 inch on the wrong side, and you're going to fuse the 2 1/2 inch wide pieces of shape flex on either side, and the 4 1/2, and on the other side of the bag the same, 2 1/2 wide, 4 1/2 wide, 2 1/2 wide. The difference is We will not be fusing anything in the center, and we will not be sewing on any of the stiff stuff. So that simply, you now have the lining of your bag ready. So the next step is to put your lining and the outer bag right sides together. So we are going to lay these right sides together. And you really want to make sure everything is squared up. This is a spot where the bag could start to get wonky. And you want to make sure you know you're doing it right if your handle is sandwiched between the two pieces. So you're going to want to make sure everything is lined up. I always like to look not just at this edge, but look down the edges of your piece, that it isn't starting to shift away, that all the edges are still lined up. So at this point, you are now going to come to your machine, right sides together, and you are going to sew both sides right on the 1-inch line you marked. And your handle is in the inside. So you're going to get that sewed. Then you are going to turn that piece right sides out. Now I haven't sewn, so my pieces are still separate, but I'm just moving you through here. So now your pieces are right sides out, just the ends are sewn, and your handles are on the outside. They should be kind of sticking up like this now that you've sewn those seams. So now we want to make sure everything stays in place because we've got 2 layers of fabric and interfacing. Just make sure all the edges are lined up. Pin or use your Wonder Clips generously, and you're just going to do a little stitching to make sure nothing shifts or moves. So you're going to sew on either side of the bag about 1/8 of an inch from either side, and that will secure everything so that as we fold the bag up, the lining and the outer part of the bag will stay where it should. So now we are ready. We are just 2 seams away from finishing this bag. So you are going to fold the bag in half, and it's pretty easy to fold it in half because we had those 2 rectangles, and it'll fold right there at the rectangles. And you have the lining out, and it's folded in half. Then you are just going to push in. Let me turn this so you can see it a little better. You are going to push it in right where those 2 rectangles, you can see it's folding, and it's going to fold real nicely for you. And you're going to have like a little M here, makes a little M or W. And you want to make sure everything is smooth, there's no little bends or folds there. And now you are going to sew 1/4 of an inch on either side. I recommend starting at the top. Make sure that both your top pieces are even with each other, so that it will look nice when you've finished if it's all even. And you want to make sure that this is all clipped. So you're going to, I like to start about 1/2 an inch down, back stitch to the top, and then stitch the rest of the way down and back stitch. The reason I like to start about 1/2 inch down and then back stitch is that when I'm done and I'm going to clip those threads, they aren't right at the top of the bag. It tends to be hard, and you could end up with little hairs of thread sticking up at the top of your bag. So that's a way to get rid of that. And once you've sewn the 2 sides, it is a nice idea to finish the edge of these seams. The pattern recommends a zigzag stitch, and you can use your zigzag stitch. There are other stitches on your machine that you might enjoy using. There is an overlock stitch that also works quite nicely. Sometimes zigzag stitch can look messy, and it can be hard to make it look nice if you're worried that that is just going to look too messy for you. Your other option is that after you sew the 1/4 inch seam, come towards the edge of the bag about 1/8 of an inch and sew another straight line. So you would have 2 lines of stitching, and then just come back with some pinking shears and pink the edge of that fabric. And that will also keep it from raveling, and it will look nice and tidy also. So 2 ways to finish that. Once you've finished the edge of your seam, you just need to turn your bag right side out, and you will see that that little M or W created this very nice little triangle on either side of the bag.